Alright, so I continue to get accepted for who I am here in the Phoenix area. And, I have a number of subscribers who think that I'm not grateful for my job over in Seattle, having the opportunity to work. I was working at a university and also part-time at a tutoring center, and how I should appreciate having the opportunities. It wasn't so much the opportunities that I didn't appreciate. It was more of the delivery of how these people treated me, and a lot of it might not even be their conscious doing. So I talked extensively about my boss at the tutoring center, and I get it. Tutoring schedules are very chaotic. I get that part of the deal. I mean, they're chaotic everywhere. What I don't necessarily get is his attitude toward them. He would ask me to leave early on a shift that I had prepared for. He would call me in last minute, and he was very unapologetic about it. Hey, Andrew, you can go now. Sometimes in the middle of working with a student that I might have loved working with, the student might have loved working with me, and this is upper middle class area. Some of these students are take a very good attitude toward it, even if they like working with me. They're not going to blow up in front of the boss, right? But you can tell that they wish we could have continued. Let's put it that way. And sometimes I would go on a shift that nobody wanted to go to, and my boss would still ask me to leave early, unapologetically. It wasn't even that, I'm sorry, we students canceled. What do you think? Or so-and-so had a family emergency. Do you think you can come by? Like, where are you in the Seattle area? He would call me. We had shifts on the weekends that begin at 10, and he would sometimes call me at 8:30, sometimes after I had stayed up all night, because I had no idea I'd be working on that Saturday or Sunday, and without a care in the world, oh my God, we got students, do you think you can come here? And one time, I didn't want to go to that, so I told him that I had run out of the COVID-19 tests, and maybe I'll go get some, but I don't feel very right. I hung my head near the edge of the bed to make my voice sound distorted, and it was 8:30 when this happened, and he texted me repeatedly between 8:30 and 10, asking, did you get the COVID-19? Did you get the COVID-19 test? And so I sent him a photo of the negative result, and I went in anyway because of how he pressured me to. He made it sound like it was a big deal. The students had nobody to work with and all that. And those were not one-off occurrences. I'd gone in on Thanksgiving. He asked me to leave early, and so when nobody wanted to take that shift, it was not an easy shift. I mean, it was the two of us, just my boss and I, with 12 students or so. In the last hour, we had 2 students, and I really loved working with one of the students, and I was working with her, and then my boss was like, oh, you can go now on Thanksgiving Eve. And I was naive at the time. I left, and I thought maybe he'll still pay me for that hour. I get my pay stub at the end of November, and he doesn't pay me for that hour, and now I'm really heartbroken. There was another time he asked me to leave early, and again, it was one of those shifts that nobody wanted to take. I can't remember what it was. It might have been a snow day because it was freezing. And I was supposed to work, I believe, a 3 to 7 shift, and he asked me to leave at 6:30, again, in a very cold way. And I was heartbroken, not just because of the money, but at the time I was living out of my car. I had gotten into a disagreement with the place I was living at, and I was temporarily living out of my car. And it was freezing. It was like 20 degrees out there. When he said you could leave now, it felt like I got evicted from his office. It really did. It was not just lose an hour, but get evicted early from the office, because you got to remember, this was at the height of the Omicron wave. There was nowhere else to go at 6:30 at night. It was a snow day. A lot of places closed early, and there was really nowhere to go except for my car. But you know what? I distinctly remember the sentiment I had that night. It might have been 20, 30 degrees outside, but you know what was even colder than the temperature outside? His attitude! It might have been 20 degrees outside, but his attitude was 0 degrees. That's how it felt. So I get here in Phoenix, And earlier today, I wanted to go to a church event, and it was after work. But after I had done, after I had finished my shift, my boss had commented on how well I had done, and said that, you know what, one of my colleagues had such an emergency with his child getting on the wrong school bus. They had just gone to school, and he was sorting that out, and asked if I could cover. And by the way, you did very well. And I normally wouldn't have done this, but I gave up the church event to stay because of how nice and warm and fuzzy it felt to talk to my boss. You know, I had so much bad experience in Seattle that I had a good experience. And I keep worrying every time my boss wants to talk to me because of all the bad experiences I had. But unfortunately, after I got off work, I relapsed. And I think a big reason I relapsed was all the nice, warm, fuzzy feelings I got over the last couple of days. I had a good experience with a board game meetup group that I meet every Saturday, or I did last year, and I returned for the first time in almost a year. I had good experiences at work. I had gone to my favorite restaurant inside the Desert Botanical Garden, and they treated me very well despite me going in there alone, and I had a very good dining experience. And I just felt nice and warm and fuzzy inside, and so I couldn't resist. But I had a good run of 69 days of NoFap. I didn't choose 69 on purpose, it was a coincidence. But unfortunately I relapsed. But you know what? I felt really good. I had a really good 69 days. It was not a complete loss. And this time it wasn't, oh my God, I'm so upset, I gotta hide in my own world. This time it was, I was living it. And my experience in Seattle taught me that it's not so much what it is that might bother somebody, it's the delivery of it. He could have very easily hired me for the same unpredictable hours, but made me feel good about it. He very well could have done that with the right words and the right attitude, but for whatever reason, he felt the need not to do that. And, you know, it's not fuck his schedule or fuck the work, it's fuck him, really, personally. The schedule is just fine under the right circumstances, right? Under the right circumstances, I would have given up a lot more to give the students a good experience, right? Under the right circumstances, I would have gone in with just the right attitude. I wouldn't have faked COVID-19, right? Under the right circumstances, we could have had a really good long-term relationship, and I could have continued to work those wacky hours with them. Under the right circumstances, I might have even stayed in Seattle. But for some reason, so I learned, it's not what you deliver, it's how you deliver it sometimes. And the people here in Phoenix delivered it so well, they made me give up a 69-day streak, if you could believe it. But I felt good.